Evening. Welcome to the Town of Ayer Finance Committee meeting on Thursday, April 17th, 2025 at 6 p.m. in the Ayer Town Hall. My name is Kurt Freskowski. I'm the chairman of the Finance Committee. This is a hybrid meeting. This meeting of the Finance Committee will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation via Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom meeting ID 978-772-8220 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager, at atm@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100, prior to the meeting. Okay, we call the meeting to order. First items on the agenda is a review and approval of the March 20th and March 27th, 2025 meeting minutes. So any corrections, notes?
On the March 20th meeting, right at the beginning there, other town representatives in attendance, it's police chief. Should be police chief.
Got it?
Other than that, I think we're okay.
Yeah. I didn't see anything. 27th? Okay, do we have?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes with that one amendment.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm slow today.
Okay.
You beat into it.
All right, do we have a second?
I second.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes for March 20th and March 27th?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So approved. Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a presentation by Dr. Denise Pigeon and on the Neshoba Valley Technical High School. Welcome, Dr. Pigeon.
Thank you. Come on up. I have some guests with me as well. So Chris Prale is actually a representative on our school committee, representing the town of Ayer, and Michelle Bouvet is our assistant business manager, and Denise Pigeon. I'm proud to be serving as the superintendent at Neshoba Valley Tech.
Welcome, Dr.
Thank you. So I'll go through the PowerPoint presentation, and then if we want to look at more details, that's what the budget book handout is for as well. Just beginning with the first slide, again, as you know, we are your regional vocational technical high school. We have 8 member towns. I'm very proud to have Ayer as one of our member towns. In terms of what this budget represents, I'd like to share with you pretty much the primary purpose we exist, and that is to provide high quality technical education to the students of our member towns. And we offer 18 different technical programs over 3 different career clusters. The first is construction and transportation, and that actually makes up almost half of our student body is enrolled in some sort of a construction program or transportation program. 31% of our students are enrolled in health and human services programs, and 22% of our students enrolled in arts and technology programs. In terms of enrollment, I always like to include enrollment information when we talk about the assessment, because enrollment is one of the major drivers of the assessment. And looking at the history of Ayer, in 2022, Ayer had its highest enrollment at Neshoba Tech with 69 students. You can see in October of 23, it went down just a little bit, and in October of 24, it has decreased slightly again. But over time, your enrollment has fluctuated anywhere between 50 and 70 students. When we look at enrollment, there's 2 pieces to look at. Is the town's enrollment increasing or decreasing? And then is your overall percentage of enrollment as a whole increasing or decreasing? So for Ayer, for this particular budget, you represent 7.2% of the overall student population. and your population from Ayer is actually decreasing by 8 students. Again, you may be graduating a smaller senior class, taking in slightly more in the freshman class. There's always sometimes students that move from town to town, so that's not a significant change, but it does make a difference when we get to the calculation page for the assessment. So up a total of 7 students overall across the district. And you can see this year, the 2 towns that have had the most significant increase in enrollment are Pepperell and Westford. On page 3, I like to say that I could take this slide and probably copy and paste it into any school or town budget presentation. What we're experiencing at Neshoba is no different than what the town is experiencing. It's no different than what other school districts are experiencing. For us, we have an aging building. We're in our original building. We do take very good care of it, but it is an older building. So capital expenses and upkeep does cost a significant amount of money. We're all dealing with uncertainty at the state and federal level in terms of funding. We have been working at Neshoba on a multi-year adjustment to make sure that we're not relying too much on one-time funds. We don't want to see from one year to the next, if we're relying too much on one-time funds, that could cause an increase in the overall assessment. Health insurance costs are rising everywhere. Other contractual increases, step and lane changes for contractual obligations for staff, and the increased cost of our technical program instructional materials. So unlike a traditional school where supplies are typically your basic educational teaching and learning supplies, we are teaching students career trades. So the cost of plumbing materials, the cost of carpentry materials, electrical materials are variable and rising. And then other fixed costs as you would experience in any budget. In terms of capital, we do work really hard, and Chris, thank you. Chris also serves on our equipment and facilities subcommittee as part of the school committee. We maintain a 10-year capital plan so that we can be forward-thinking in terms of the needs of our building, and we can be aggressive with grants and applying for grants. We have some pretty significant capital needs and projects we've been working on. We have to replace the entire fire suppression system of our full building. And instead of trying to do that in one large project, we've broken it into multiple phases. So we did complete the first phase during the last budget cycle, and we budgeted for this phase during this budget cycle. So we're actually going into phase 3, and that is in the capital plan. In addition to that, we've also been implementing several competitive grants that we received, which have been a wonderful blessing. We actually, some of you, thank you, you came to our grand opening and our ribbon cutting. We received a $3.75 million state grant to add 7,000 square feet of instructional space for our students. So that project was completely funded through the state grant, allowed us to move our engineering, robotics, and programming and web program into that new space. So those are some pictures that you see of electrical and programming and web. And what that's really allowed us to do, it put those programs together and right next to advanced manufacturing, which has huge instructional benefit, but it's also opened up the space in other areas of the building so we could expand our fastest growing technical programs. So for us, electrical is one of the fastest growing programs, and vet assisting is the second fastest growing program, and we're basically moving programs around to continue to be able to meet the need and the demand.
I have a question.
Sure.
What's driving the fire suppression system replacement? Is that just an aging thing, or? It's
a great question. It was replaced during a project during 2003, 2005, and we found that there was an unusual amount of corrosion and way too early in some of the fittings. And we've done as much research as we possibly can, but there's an issue with the fittings. So either the fittings have to all be replaced, or sometimes the whole entire system needs to be replaced. So when we broke it down into the phases, some of the phases are full replacement, some of the phases we're able to just replace the sections that are damaged. So it may have to do with the materials or the materials that they put on the system when they put it together, but we are in that situation where it has to be all replaced.
And we've broken it up, as Dr. Pigeon said, to the highest need sections where we found that there were troubles in those sections, and we've been breaking those down section by section.
Yep.
I was going to ask a question also on the fire suppression system. Am I correct in assuming that because of let's say, the auto shop and other manufacturing type things, you have to have a little more high-tech fire suppression systems?
I don't necessarily think it's any more high-tech. In certain cases, it's high bay, right, so that it's just a lot higher of a ceiling in certain areas.
Okay.
But I think it's a pretty traditional structure in terms of across the building. In 2003, 2005, when they did a major renovation, this was before I was superintendent, we were required to implement fire suppression throughout. Whenever you do a significant portion of construction, it triggers the requirement to have fire suppression. So we are required by code to have fire suppression everywhere.
Right.
There are certain programs that have increased needs, like in carpentry where there's sawdust and things like that.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
But for the most part across the building, I think it's just a pretty traditional setup.
And culinary has that some of those specialty
Certain
items
items.
because of the friolators and things like that that they have in culinary.
And the company that installed the fire suppression system, they only had a very short warranty period, so the problems all occur after the warranty. Okay.
Yeah, we checked into all that, yes. Yeah, it's very unfortunate. But some good news, let's talk about some good news with fire suppression, because there is some good news. With some of these grants that we've been implementing, so we received 2 significant grants, the $3.75 million grant, that new 7,000 square feet. As part of that grant, fire suppression came with that piece of the building. But we also received a $2.5 million state grant to expand and renovate vet assisting and electrical technology. And through that project, we had to move another program, which is cosmetology. So the grant funds, we were able to actually replace some of the fire suppression system through that particular grant, so it did not have to go into our capital plan. So whenever we can maximize those types of grant programs to help with the capital plan, we've been doing both.
If I remember from last year, you generally are like, look at all this grant money we got.
Yes, yes.
Your grant writer is
Yes,
amazing.
I have a list here. Our grant writer is amazing.
But,
Actually, it's a team effort. We have a lead grant writer, but we also have a group of people that just all participate in putting together very, very good grant applications for honestly, highly competitive grants.
Do you think it's a benefit of having so many towns in one school?
I think that we do probably in the grant application process receive bonus points because we do serve a very high need population. 40% of our students are special needs students. When you compare that to a traditional high school, that's about 12 to 15%. So we do have some, I think, advantages when you write grants, that when they have their their rubrics for grading, because we do serve a high need population. I think it's also the workforce demand. Many of these grants are specific to workforce development, and that was their primary purpose, is to look at your labor market studies, figure out where is the greatest need, can you prove that you have the student need and capacity to build that program, and that is what drives the points for, and also to have strong business partners, because the grants require letters of support from business partners, and we really lean on our vocational technical advisory committee members, our cooperative placement employers, so we get a whole bunch of letters of support from our partners, and that helps too. But just because this is such an exciting part of what I do. Sorry if I get off track. You can
No, it's
stop.
okay.
Please stop me. But electrical, for example, our largest program and our fastest growing program, we took in our largest freshman class in electrical ever. We just placed 36 freshmen into electrical. And in order to do that, we had to very quickly take our design and visual program, move it into the space that programming and web used to be in. So we renovated all in-house, staff support, student support, moved that program and built new booths so that 36 freshmen could enter into a new space, and we could not turn any students away. We didn't want to turn any students away from that program because demand is there for a really wonderful career opportunity. So,
And I think one of the biggest pluses that we have a very motivated and willing staff that jumps right in and jumps in these projects, helps out, and then we have the students, and it's giving them real world trade experience with these things. Just, some of them will do electrical just in homes, but the code is different, the work is different, because this is an industrial type environment. So it's a different animal for them. It's great experience for them.
And with these particular workforce skills capital grants, we have never missed a grant opportunity. So they come out, a couple of times a year. Every time there's an opportunity, we submit an application. We've not been successful every time, but we never miss an opportunity. And if we don't receive it the first time we put in, we continue to work to increase the application package so that next time we can make it work. So we're hoping that there'll be more announcements coming soon. We know that it's a hot topic in the state level budget right now as well. I believe that the governor had $75 million in the budget for potential expansion for vocational schools, and it will go through multiple iterations over the next few months. So we're in support of continued expansion to meet the need across the state. On the next page, just some photos, and this is cosmetology, and this was a long project. It took a while to finish this one, but the picture you see on the left was over a year ago, and we gutted an old horticulture program. Students did support in that part of the project, and then you could see sort of getting closer to finish, and then all the way to the right, the students actually just moved into the new cosmetology salon about 2 weeks ago. And are now serving the public in their new salon. The old salon is already ready next week to begin gutting so that we can double the size of our vet assisting program and expand for
Like
students.
Dr. Pigeon said, that is open to the general public along with our restaurant that is open for people who can come in, get haircuts, nails, and they do a great job there.
Forward thinking with capital, again, it is an aging building, so we do have ongoing needs. The fire suppression phases will need to continue. In addition, we do have to replace several of our student passenger vans. They actually were in our plan to replace during this current budget year, but we chose to hold off an additional year to keep our costs in line with where we know our towns are financially. So we did put that on hold. We do need to replace our exterior doors. There's a small section of our roof that will need to be replaced. Our boilers are aging. We have some parking lot work that we need to do futuristically. And the big ticket item for us is the HVAC. So our HVAC is beyond its useful life. But the good news is, again, we are aggressive with seeking grants. We've been planning for this, and we're hopeful. We did submit for an MSBA accelerated repair project. That window just closed in March, and we made sure that our application was in. We'll wait and see what happens, but if we are able to get an MSBA project, that would be a future warrant article that would come before you in the next year or two. And we're hoping to time it with a piece of debt coming off of the budget. At the same time, a new piece of debt might be coming onto the budget. So the 2003-2005 project is just about to be paid off in another year. So again, we're hoping that if we need to take on more debt, it would be balanced with the debt that's coming off.
Question, how much do you anticipate the HVAC replacement to football?
I would prefer to email you an estimate because it changes on every day and depending on who you ask and depending on what type, if we're replacing in kind versus if we're going with heat pumps. And I think if we have to do it on our own, we're probably going to have to go in one direction. And if we go forward with the MSBA grant, there's a requirement that you're looking at heat pumps, but then the percentage of reimbursement is different, so it's still a bit in the air. But I can give you some of those estimates if you're curious.
Yeah, I'm just
It's a good question.
You're plenty busy. It's okay.
No, but again, it's important to be planning for the future. This is the bird's eye view of the budget, budget by function, and as you would expect, the largest increase is in instruction. The majority of that increase is, again, the step and lane changes for staffing. It's also the increase in the instructional supplies. And if you look at the section in yellow, which is the 2000s or instruction, if you add in the 3000s, which is, the pupil services, transportation, and the benefits, basically 75% of our budget is pretty much based on staffing and instructional staffing, as you would want to see. And the next slide is the revenue. So on the top, we receive our revenues from either directly from the towns through the assessment, and we also have non-town assessment revenue. So at the top, this is money that comes direct to Neshoba Tech. Chapter 70 school aid is, we are expecting an increase. It's not a significant increase, but it's up about 100,000. We are currently planning on, we estimated, what was our reimbursement rate for? About 80% for transportation reimbursement. We're hopeful. There's always talk of it going to 100%, but I've never seen it. We'll see, but we're budgeting for about 80% transportation reimbursement. We are using 600,000 of our excess and deficiency, which is not the full amount of our excess and deficiency. We're holding back about 200,000, which is what we've done the last few years. And then direct from the towns through the town assessment, there's a number that's calculated through the state formula, and that's the required minimum contribution. That's where the biggest increase is coming in this year. So that formula is calculating that our minimum contribution is going up $499,274. Transportation and capital is doesn't look like it's going up that much. I want to sort of explain that because it might not make sense when you look at it from that big picture. But we were able to save in transportation costs, not because of our contract. Our contract is significantly increasing, but with some attrition, we've been able to save on some of our special transportation, and that's the adjustment that you see that makes it look like it's not that large of an increase. The additional assessment is up just over 75,000, and you can see debt every year decreases slightly. And there's two pieces of debt in that number. That's a roof project that was voted probably about 5 years ago, and then the big project from 2003 to 2005, which is just about done. So we're actually, compared to most regional school districts, our debt is actually quite low. The next page, I know this is a busy slide. I always like to kind of jump ahead, but when you look at the assessment and when we calculate this assessment page, the first thing we look at again is that number of students by district. So that's why understanding if your district enrollment is increasing or decreasing is important. The percentage of the students by town, because that factors into most of the calculation. But some people always try to start doing straight math and they look at the next column and it doesn't make any sense. That number in the next column, town's minimum contribution, is not a number that Neshoba Tech calculates. This is a number that the state provides. This is the formula, and it is driven by a formula, and that number is set by the state. All of the rest of the numbers in that calculation are calculated on the number of students and your percentage of student by town. So Ayer, again, $936,772 for your assessment for 25-26. We'll get into more details on a future slide. So when you go to the next slide, this is looking at our total budget, all 8 towns year over year. So this is all 8 towns, not just Ayer. We've gone up by 7 students overall. You can see the biggest change in our assessment is driven by that state funding formula. We are up almost 500,000 in the state funding formula. Transportation is not a significant change, and again, that's due to that adjustment in the special transportation. Additional assessment is up, and then debt service is slightly down for the total assessment change of $553,508. The next slide will look specific to Ayer. And you can see Ayer's gone from 63 students to 55 students, so a decrease of 8 students. Your total percentage of the overall student population is also slightly decreased, and that's likely what's factoring into the decreased requirement from the state regarding your town's minimum contribution, so that's down. Transportation is also slightly down. Additional assessment is up just over 2,000. And then you see debt service is down. So your total assessment for Neshoba Tech is actually down from last year. It's a decrease of $137,903. I can pause there and see if there's any questions. It's not often.
No, go for it.
I can't remember what I was gonna ask. I gotta look.
I think one of the big messages that I would just want to say, it's not often I go to a town and I say, oh, your cost is decreasing this year. I don't think you hear that often, right? But again, because our budget really functions so close to the required minimum, what you will see with Neshoba Tech over time is that sometimes there could be larger increases and sometimes there are these decreases, and that is because we do function really not that much above minimum. And this year you might be down $137,903, but it's important to keep in mind that if you go up 16 students next year, you could see that 137,000 plus in an increase. And I think that happened to Air, was it last year or the year before?
Year
2 years
before,
ago.
2 years.
Yeah. With that enrollment swing.
I remember that town meeting.
Okay. Do you remember? Or I'm good.
Go ahead.
No, I'm good.
Oh, all right, yeah, is the state calculation or what did?
I'm gonna turn it over to Robert now. I'm sorry.
Is there, it is what it is, but I'm just wondering, like, cause you said, oh, there was a.
Based on, there's several,
increase.
well,
Is
there's
there-
the, enrollment is one factor. Enrollment is one factor of that, calculation. So you'll see the increases or decreases based on enrollment, but there are other factors involved. There's a wealth factor of the town,
Revenue factor of the town.
yeah, jump in, help me out here, just some of the highlights.
Yeah, so they'll look at whether or not each town is meeting what their expected contribution is. And each year, they'll review it to see if they're closer or further away from what their expected target share is. And so then they will give it an additional increment to meet that target share, and that's all part of the calculation. It's a very complicated.
Do they also take into account like how many students from the town require special education, that kind of thing?
Yes, I think
I assume
that
they
is
would.
also, there are
Yeah.
different increments based on the student population, yes. In fact, that was one of the pieces when they did the formula change a few years ago, when they went with the Student Opportunity Act. There was a portion of that where the special education increment, there was discussion about how that was going to work, and vocational schools, special education students at vocational schools do also get an increment in that factor as well. The next slide is just a little information about the other things that we do at Neshoba Tech. So in addition to providing education for students in grades 9 through 12 for career-focused education, we also run a pretty robust evening program. So CTI, or Career and Technical Initiative, was started a few years ago by the state. And this is a fully funded state program. So this is not part of the budget that we're discussing. It's fully funded by the state. And it is free for participants that qualify. So adults of any age who are looking to career change have the opportunity to participate in 200-hour career-focused programs. We're currently running advanced manufacturing, automotive, and electrical. And we place students in the field right after they complete that program. So it's been very successful. It can really be a game changer for people who are looking to find a new career and a new path.
We've had people from our community that have attended these programs. I keep tabs on them, and I've actually spoken to one of the persons that have graduated that program and got a great job in automotive from that program.
Let me ask, do you, what the state pays, that includes some of the fixed costs? Do you have
Yes, it
some
does.
of that?
Facility use, yes, it pays for
Good.
facility use, it pays for a portion of custodians, pays for the person who coordinates and runs the program, 100% pays for the teachers that teach the program, and then it's a grant. How it works is a grant, and there are other incentives. So if we place students in the field, there's actually additional funding that we receive if they get placed in the field and if they persist in the field. So the program is fully funded outside of the budget and doing well.
We just had an electrical one that wrote a very nice letter back. One of the students wrote it on behalf of their fellow students about how great the class was and the instructors, and they really got a lot out of it. It was nice. They sent it to the school committee. We had it presented to us 2 weeks ago at our meeting.
We have teachers in the program. Most of them are teachers of our day program. Sometimes they're people from other technical schools that also teach at night. But we also hire a student assistant. So there's always a junior or a senior from the technical program that's working as a teacher's assistant in the adult program, and that's really wonderful to see when you see a real amazing junior or senior and they're teaching the adults for the next career. It's really a wonderful
And very,
And hopefully our future technical teachers too, because we have to work on recruiting those too.
and those students are very excited. We have one that's our student rep, and she does the
Teaches
electrical.
Yep.
Phenomenal, just an awesome young woman.
And then the last slide is just a reminder to everybody that's watching and here that we are open to the public. We do provide automotive services. We provide design and visual or printing needs. If you have any, Cosmo Cuts is now reopened and beautiful. Please come and check it out. And we provide other services. And the restaurant is amazing. Right now, what the restaurant is doing is every other week they turn the restaurant over to a senior, and the senior runs the show. They pick the whole entire menu, and they run the show. So there's a lot of interesting opportunities for meals
I
going
think
on.
it's a main theme
is
this
main
week.
this week.
Yeah. Got crab cakes, corn chowder.
It's really their culminating project where they get to make all of the decisions for the restaurant.
Great.
A question. I may have missed it or whatever, and I don't remember exactly from, like, say, last year. I know you last year had talked about capacity and having to essentially like turn away people from outside district, and you were also getting like Lego.
Yes,
I
you
can't
have
think
great
of the
memory.
word I'm looking for. But
Lego or Tetris, was it?
new like building a, you know,
Yes,
expansion or
Mhm.
whatever. How would you say the capacity situation is at the school right now?
It's a really good question because there's also a lot of discussion going on statewide if you've been seeing the different articles that have been in the news. So the good news about Neshobatek is for the most part we've been right-sized over the years for our region. You go back to when I first started there, and I've been there, let's not talk about how long I've been there. What you're talking about with the out-of-district students, that was definitely over the last few years. I've been letting you know. One of the things that happened over time at Neshobatek is we used to always have space for about 20 students who were school choice students or non-resident students. For years we had that. So that's an extra revenue stream where you would have maybe 20 students in each grade and you would be getting school choice revenue. Over the last 3 years, we have had such an interest in our member towns, and we must serve those students first, which makes sense. That we have not accepted any school choice students. So I think we're now down to 2, and they're in the upper class, and they'll be graduating out. So school choice is over. For now, we don't have any school choice, which means we also don't receive the school choice revenue. So that was something that we were preparing for slowly over time. In terms of capacity, we do have a wait list. It is not a giant wait list. We are running between 30 and 50 students per grade on the wait list, so we're working on how we can continue to expand a bit to be able to reduce or eliminate that wait list. We are not in a situation like you would see some of the vocational schools that have thousands on their wait list. So again, the good news is we're pretty much right-sized for our region, but we do have a little bit of work to do to continue to meet the increased demand. We take in about 200 freshmen per year. We did receive about 330 applications, but some of those students get accepted and decide it's not for them, so they don't necessarily end up on the wait list. We continue to process if they say they're not interested. And that we're in that process right now for the incoming freshman class.
Thank you.
And then the other piece with the movement of the program, so it's great, you can take all the students in, but if you don't have room to place them in the program of their dreams, that's the next issue, and that's why we have been really focusing a lot of our energies on making sure we're expanding those very popular programs with high labor market demand, because I would never want to turn a freshman away from the program of their dreams. And this year we were fortunate that we have not had to. We were able to place students where they wanted to be and where we knew they were going to be successful. But not every technical school can do that, so we're in a good place at Neshobatek.
And I think that is the first year in our history that we were able to do that. So
Usually
the student
electrical
gets
is
3
missing.
choices. At the end of their exploratory, they come down to their 3 first, second, third choice. This year, as Dr. Pigeon said, first year in our history, everybody got their first pick. We
And
had room.
electrical was the biggest piece there with the 36 students that wanted that program. We were able to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like amazing that if you guys are constantly shifting classrooms around and
A
everything.
lot going on there.
It's just,
And
Yeah,
we're,
having a
and
free
we're out
time, we
back
can
here
always use some
helping,
more help.
we're building the Habitat House out back here, so, the kids have been over here busy with that, waiting for the next phase to get in. Hopefully, the, electrical and plumbing kids can get in there, but, you know, we're under time clock because they do have summer break,
Yes.
so.
And that project has been wonderful. The students and staff have spoken so highly about the partnership, so thank you.
I had one question. I was just doing a quick skim of the budget, and I noticed that the debt service has gone down.
Yep.
So,
Yep. So the good news with the debt service going down, every year the debt goes down as we continue to pay it off. Like I said, there's two pieces of debt in that number. There's the roof project that is from about 5 years ago, and then there's the 2003-2005 project, which is the larger piece of debt. And we have just one more year of that, and it will come off the books. But what we are anticipating is that they won't actually change the assessment. I would not expect a significant decrease in assessment because of that debt coming off. We are planning to add a new piece of debt to address the HVAC and time it so that it doesn't create a big variation in your assessment. So that is what we're planning for.
okay, good. Yeah, it sort of ties together with, as you said, under the capital items.
Yes, yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then the budget book is just all things Neshoba Tech, and we will have copies of this available at town meeting. In addition, it's also posted on our website. It goes into a little bit more detail. And the only other thing we didn't talk about today that might be worth mentioning is OPEB. And as a regional school district, we're responsible to be, making progress towards our OPEB, and our budget does put in a contribution to OPEB. Is it 100,000?
100,000, yes.
And we're continuing to make progress on our OPEB liability.
Oh, the,
Other post-employment benefits.
thank you. Part of my brain was going benefits, the other part was what's the exact acronym
In
stand for?
education, we love acronyms. We have a lot.
Military than education.
Any other questions for us?
I'm good.
Jim, Bob, Eric? I'd like to open, if there's any questions from the public for Dr. Pigeon and representatives from the high school? Okay, seeing none? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, folks. Appreciate your time.
Really appreciate it.
See you at town meeting.
Yes.
Every day.
Okay, all right, moving on to the next item on the agenda is going to be, we've got the annual town meeting coming up on Monday, April 28th.
It's our next meeting.
Well, let me see, that's what I was just gonna pull up a calendar here.
Who's going?
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Okay. Do you want to go, Jim?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen the audience. I don't want to sit on the stage, but I can.
That's the fun part.
I can.
I'll be a
Bob?
spectator, yeah.
Last chance.
To be on stage? No, thanks.
You had your time in the spotlight many years ago, right?
It's where the big bucks are, you know, up on
Sometimes in
stage.
the hot seat too.
All right, so Robert, we're going to have the three musketeers,
Who are?
myself, Andrew, and Eric on stage.
All right.
3 officers, if you will.
Yep. Okay, perfect. Kurt, Andrew.
And is there anything in particular we need to be aware of for the meeting?
I don't think so.
Pretty
Any
straight.
presentations this time?
Pardon?
I think next year we should do a presentation on something. Be a friendly suggestion.
Yeah, at town meeting, you mean?
Yeah. I feel like no one shows up to our meetings anyway, so it'd be good to give a little precursor of what we do and contribute.
Sure.
It's a good idea.
But not this meeting.
But
next year.
But you're clearly volunteering to do that, right?
Sure, I'll do it. I don't mind.
Did you have something like in mind that you were thinking of?
So I mean, I will throw this out, is that, and Robert, I'm gonna lean on you here to make sure I've got my facts straight, is we are going to still be having the special town meeting in the fall, correct?
Yes, yep,
Okay, and
yep.
the main focus of that will be the senior center.
It's looking that way, yes, yep,
Okay,
yeah.
at this point. Yeah. Okay, all right, so we'll have work to do this, next few months.
Imagine a lot of work.
Speaking of senior center and everything else, I had a thought. So you're essentially like our representative on capital planning committee, right?
Correct.
Is it um, how does capital planning committee work? Like, do you guys actually like approve or recommend things to come out and be on the warrant, or should we? Is it something like we should be like giving a FinCom like recommendation to for everything? You'll have to excuse me. I have no idea what goes on outside of our committee.
So,
Still new.
Robert will correct me, but, all the departments present their capital needs for the year. So, new fire engine would be the big thing, new trucks, the water department, new this or that. And, then some of the items can be paid out of, there's a certain level we use. And then the rest of it is technically becomes part, goes to, it's approved, and then is going to go on to the warrant, correct? As
Right.
part of one of the warrant articles is the capital items, and those will be subject to borrowing.
Right. So, as the chair mentioned, so the town has had, it's in the financial policies, a capital planning committee. I believe it's 9 members, there's resident reps on there, FinCom rep. And they're charged with to review all of the capital recommendations for the upcoming year. And they make the recommendations on, what should move forward and the method in which it should be financed, and some of that's set by the financial policies too. So for example, what quantifies a capital request is any one-time item that's $10,000 or more. And then the policy says that any item that's $50,000 or less, we try to pay from capital stabilization rather than borrow. And we have we're approaching 5 million on capital stabilization on the small stuff, and then the borrowing. So that capital planning committee will meet from October usually through January, make those recommendations to select board. You guys did review I think it's Article 13 and Article 14, which are the capital, which made a recommendation on it. So that's sort of the process.
Okay.
But I mean, like, just for 2 examples, this year, I remember is, Peroni Park, we wanted to put in, there was a request to put in cameras to watch people, because the people had broken into the shed there. So we said that was really maybe not a good idea, so that sort of came off. I think the other thing was several departments were looking for new vehicles, and I think we looked at, the departments went back to the drawing board, and I think we went down 1 vehicle.
Yep. Yep. And the capital planning committee, as the chair will recall, also was instrumental in, with respect to the senior center project, that committee's original goal was for this spring, and through the capital process, it became clear that it was not ready for town meeting. So there's another example. So it's more of advisory in nature, the capital planning.
And if I'm not mistaken, haven't we reserved for the capital planning committee to meet in August or September?
Yes, yep,
If needed?
correct.
Okay, for the senior center.
Yep. And
Further on that.
And I would recommend, through the chair too, also that they come back to the finance committee once they have finished some of their further due diligence. And that'd be my opinion.
Yes.
I'm gonna
excuse myself.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, all right.
Take care, Bob.
see you around, Bob.
Well, we were still gonna meet at least the once a month cadence like we did over the summer last year, I would assume.
Oh, yeah, so I mean, right, because that was gonna be leading into,
See you, Bob.
continuing on. So for our, so I'm sort of moving to our scheduling our next meeting, but anything else about town meeting? So we're set for
I had a
next
separate
Monday.
side question, but we can schedule our thing next.
Pardon?
I had a side question, but I'll wait till we schedule our next meeting.
Oh, okay. Does that tie into the town meetings or?
No.
Okay. So the regular schedule we've been looking is first and third of the Thursday. So that would put us at May 1st and May 15th. May 1st falling 3 days after the town meeting. So do we want to maybe hold off and do our next meeting on the 15th of May?
I would propose that.
Okay, so we will,
What are we gonna talk about?
I was gonna say after town meeting, what are we meeting for?
We'll come up with something.
We used to say that, oh, we will try to educate ourselves in the off season, but the end up, we didn't really meet as much. Well, whatever, it's fine. I probably won't be around.
Could we, what if we made an effort to meet with, members of the, Community Preservation Commission?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, we had talked about that.
that was one thing we talked about, yeah.
The CPC?
oh, that, why
Oh,
don't we, I
wait,
forgot why, but.
I actually would, I'm interested in learning more about that, so I would, propose we do that. I don't know, I'm not gonna be here for the month of May, so
Ooh, where you going?
I'm recording line, so I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay, sorry, I forget that sometimes.
So what I'm hearing is maybe for our May 15th meeting is we can start doing some planning for the next few months leading up to the special town meeting, so, and actually into next year.
I think the point is if you're getting surcharged something, it'd be good to explain that to us and the town of what the CPC does and kind of get a better sense of what's going on.
So do you think, do you want to actually have someone, get a presentation on CPC on the May 15th meeting?
Well, if Jen's not
I
gonna
would
be,
say like if we could do that in June or something.
Okay, so what I'm thinking is maybe we, on our meeting on May 15th, we can say, okay, here's things that we'd like to do during the next few months and even looking forward is a CPC meeting or CPC explanation or review, how's that? What other,
Mr. Chair?
yes,
So maybe just a couple of suggestions. I think the CPC for June would be a good one that, for this committee, but also for the public to really do a deep dive on CPC. I think that's good. Couple other potential topics is perhaps more detail on the town's debt schedule and borrowing. That would be Barbara. Why I say that is because major projects like the senior center, major projects in the future like the elementary school, but sort of she could do an overview of the municipal borrowing, but also review the debt schedule, like what Denise was talking about earlier, what's coming off, coming on. I mean, that could be one topic.
that was,
Yeah.
I have notes at home and I did not bring them tonight.
Yeah.
And that is,
that's true, because that's a really good point, because something I was thinking after the last meeting, when we went over the articles and whatnot, and Barbara had said that all the debt, none of that is included in the departmental budgets. Once
Right.
it gets approved, it's just part of it. And I think that would be like something interesting to know, like, okay, some departments obviously do carry more debt than others. It's the nature of what they do and require. But as far as like, okay, how much is, say, one department have on there, and are we then maybe choking out another department or whatnot? Like,
and
how much are we?
also here is another good example, and again, correct me if I have the facts wrong here, Robert, is that we approved the fire truck. It's been 2 years. However, we've yet to take delivery on it, so we
Paid
have
for it
not.
yet.
Pardon?
We just haven't paid for it yet.
We haven't paid for it yet. So actually, so when we take delivery of
It's an
the
ambulance,
fire
too.
truck, the Barbara will then be selling the bond for, I don't use, so
Mhm.
that's when the debt will actually be incurred. So we have those
That's
on
sort
the
of
horizon.
basically uh, you're saying why I'm asking this.
Oh, yeah,
Because,
this is,
like,
this
you
is,
know,
in fact, well, I had asked Barbara to work on this.
Yeah, and I
there
know-
definitely does seem to be an emphasis on certain departments.
Well, yeah, there's that angle, but also the angle that I was coming from, and this sort of occurred to me as we were going through the capital plan process, again with the fire truck, is that we have approved, I think there's 1 or 2 other items that we have approved over
I know,
the years.
and now we continue to approve more, and those haven't even hit, is what
Right.
I'm trying to say, those haven't
Right,
even hit.
exactly, right, and that's where we want to get a good handle
Yeah.
of that.
So maybe I could check with Barbara, it's up to the committee, for May, we could at least do part 1, which would be an overview on the borrowing and the debt schedule. That would be Barbara and I. To Jin's point, which I think is a good one, or the committee's point, I think meeting with CPC in June to do an overview of CPC and all of that, I think will be not only helpful for all of us, including the committee, but also the public as well, to fully understand that. Another potential topic too we could do for consideration at some point too is more of a deep dive on capital. In other words, looking to so one of the things the capital plan committee does is look at a 5-year plan. And so maybe that could be another topic, is looking to the future.
5-year plan, but you can only take a 20-year note, right?
You could take a 20 or a 30, depending on the
Seems like you
project.
need a 20 or 30
Yeah.
year view, right?
Yeah.
Especially like when you consider, I mean, there's, regardless of how many more years it is,
Right.
the new elementary school is not far down the road.
Right.
It's not necessarily next year, but it's not 20 years down the road.
Something I find interesting, maybe is a separate question, right? Looking at the planning board meetings, and they're looking to put in more developments, and they started on Stratton Hill this week. They're putting in, what, 30, 40 new houses, Stratton Hill alone, and how does that affect the tax base? Out of curiosity, like how much more tax income is that?
Wow.
That probably,
Right, 'cause
People
people
already
complain,
factor
right?
in.
Everyone's always like, the water and the whatever, and it's like, well, those people pay taxes too, right? But is it a net positive or?
Well, all due respect,
Yeah.
Mr. Pomprian. The towns rarely have a problem finding use for revenue, so they're also very happy to encourage more development. Oh, we're gonna have additional revenue, fantastic, we'll find a way to spend it.
What if, to
And
your point,
just quick, but on the flip side of that, are we gonna need to repave, what's that wonderful road that you live on?
I already asked them to repave that twice.
Right road, yeah, so I mean, what I'm making a note here is projects,
this is all
impacts
actually
on
settled
revenue and
because
costs.
the
Yeah.
project have been approved.
No, they've been approved, but I think a lot of people show up to those meetings because they don't want the development
Yeah, it's always like
for
that.
various reasons.
Yeah.
And I think I'm
When I
and-
first moved into this town, the Calvin Street section was wetland.
Yeah.
And the Old Calvin Street and Oak Ridge Drive were separated. And then, but within the few years after I moved in here, that they did that. And it was already approved years ago, like Stratton Hill was approved years ago. So you can't stop it. And I think, I understand the developer has already scaled back, and I suspect in general, probably the tax revenue the town receives from, the sale of the real estate probably would be more than what the town will have to spend in providing service to those areas. So
Yes.
I think that it will be a net positive
I
to
don't
the
think
town.
people realize that.
Yeah, the thing is, it's always this way. To the homeowners, the butters, they hate it because they don't want to
Oh.
get this place
I'm
more
on
crowded.
team build. I'm maybe anti-air care. I live right down the road from there. It's gonna be years of construction and blasting and whatever, and I'm on team let's build, man. Like,
But
let's do it.
I'm not anti-build, as since Sam is, you know, her job.
She's team build.
Well, no, her job,
Yeah.
reaches all these different departments and whatever. You know, part of my concern is always this is all well and good. We have literally one road in and out of town that backs up
Oh, man.
to the rotary
That's so bad.
every day already. Also, the town is the size of this computer, is highly developed, and people always talk about we have a housing crisis, housing shortage. But like, unless we plan on building 15-story skyscrapers, we're not solving a problem.
The thing is, all this should have already, I
And I
believe,
don't want to live
were
in it.
already
I don't
debated
live here for 15-story
That's what-
skyscrapers.
at the planning
That's what town
board
planners are for,
stage, yeah. When
Yeah,
the,
I know.
when the planning board approved that, they should have already considered all this. They probably already,
Part of it,
maybe-
again, as far as my education goes, part of it is also like the town can't just be like, no, we don't want you to build, and just say no for no reason whatsoever. They just get sued or taken to whatever,
It's
and the
still
builder
private
says
property.
there was no reason. I was told no.
Yeah.
As long as they like meet certain requirements and guidelines.
You see, this town probably had built more, I don't really know. I'm wondering if this town had built more than the surrounding towns. But the thing is, this town's real estate value, this is property value is also still increasing despite all the, building. You would think that if you build too much, you dilute it, maybe.
That's not my.
Did you see we were runner-up town under 750,000?
That's right.
Best place to live in Massachusetts.
Boston Globe 2025 West.
Yeah.
See that?
Under
Because this is-
750? What do you mean?
Average sale.
This is
price.
still
Oh,
sort of like
okay,
the
median.
relatively speaking.
Who was number one?
Um,
I think we should go take them out.
it was one of those.
Probably
Those
somewhere near
old-timey
Worcester.
towns.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
I have
Continue
another
up.
point to you. I
Yeah.
think I have friends looking for a house, and they were looking to buy in Maynard, right? Which is, I think, is like 4.5 square miles.
Yeah, it's even
like
smaller.
50% more than our population. I just find that interesting dichotomy. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Because you don't live
Robert,
there,
I,
right?
But we also have a lot of, I don't think Maynard has a lot of wetlands. We have a lot more.
Yeah, we don't
place
know. We
that we
don't really
can't.
know. I mean, I feel like I don't know the exact geography of any town. In New England, every town has a little some kind of water hole. Maynard used to the clock tower. That's the mill.
Yeah.
If there's a mill there must be some river, something there. So I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if there is some wetland around there. So I don't know. I don't know.
That
One
was
of
just-
the-
But there also comes to the point of, not that you want to stop building everywhere or wherever, but, there was a previous employee at the town who oftentimes made comments as if they were trying to turn the town into another place. And I don't think that's what a lot of people in town want. I think they want to live in this town because of what this town is. They don't want it to be, a population of 15,000. That's not what they're looking for.
It's hard. Everybody has
It's gonna happen
the
eventually.
pro and con debate, and it's hard because sort of like the entire eastern Massachusetts has this housing crisis, so it has to be built somewhere. And Ayer
There's
is
350 other towns.
Exactly.
We're not the only
Well,
one that can build.
well, probably not true. I assume the other towns around us are also building, but each town has their own, appetite for new building and all the rest. And also, we are on the route of, public transportation, that on the commuter route.
Yeah.
So according to the state law, that the town of Milton and the town of either Nader or Needham had fought against, that the state mandate that you have to build sort of like a certain amount of
You have to zone for.
yeah, like a higher density housing. So whatever, it's hard to
They're
say.
also getting sued, though. I don't know if that's been
Correct, they
disturbed
are.
and put to bed, but yeah.
I think
It's
still in
hard to say. The
process.
thing
In
is that
process,
I
yeah.
think that every town, the characters of each town will change over time. And
Yes.
Ayer is evolving, but I think so far Ayer has not evolve in a bad way. So the thing is, yes, if you are as rich as Harvard or Groton, you may just insist on
That was my question.
that that you are not going to exceed certain kind of density, and then you just turn people away, which is fun. The people in the town are willing
Except
to.
not really, because then it puts pressure on all the other towns around them. There
Well,
has to be some better balance.
Well, this is,
It's the
I'm
problem.
gonna, in the interest of time and. 'cause
Sorry.
oh, no, this is, but I'm gonna jump off of what you just were saying about the rich towns and poor towns and stuff, is that what we can do as finance committee, and I'm looking at our mission here, is we need to look at the financial impact of all these things. So I was sort of like, I was making notes, so projects, what does that impact revenue and cost?
Absolutely.
So,
Is,
and I'm gonna come to you, I know I stepped
got
on
one
you
other
in just a
idea
minute.
for you. Yeah.
And, so, this is great stuff, because what we can do is say, okay, here's, again, the planning committee coming up with these projects. Okay, well, what are the costs on this, and is this being transparent? Is everyone, are the cost and revenues being fairly presented and accurately presented? And that's where we can really do
I would like to just know where they're gonna put the road for all these people coming through
yeah.
town.
But I think, and
Because honestly, what other road is there in
Yeah.
and out of town?
Grand Harvard, oh yeah,
And who's on that road? Nobody.
yeah.
No, I know, but I mean like that's not going anywhere.
The highways are that way.
Right. And
If they open the hospital again, we'll get busy. So, but I think,
there's
but
nowhere to put them.
But I think one thing, and I will maybe, since you have a few more years' experience, is that one thing we as a committee, we need to focus on the financial side of it. And I think to present, to be aware of, and I think this is great that we are aware of and on top of it, and to ask the important questions of the various committees and select boards who are making these questions and stuff.
I was gonna ask my 20-second question.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to ask earlier.
And
To
I
Robert,
haven't forgotten about Robert.
what surrounding towns are doing 2.5 overrides? Do you know?
Off the bat right now, Pepperell, Townsend, Groton, Harvard. I'm thinking in our neighborhood. Shirley isn't, we aren't, Littleton isn't. So Groton, Pepperell, Townsend, Dunstable, a lot of them. And Mr. Chair, what I was just,
Yes,
I
okay.
think it was a great discussion as you plan for the summer, as they say. So it sounds like, and I'd be happy to work with the chair to coordinate all this however the committee wants to. I think having an overview on the borrowing and the debt schedule would be a good topic, as we said, and it would be timely with this senior center type of thing on the horizon. We could put together, as was brought up, maybe the municipal economics or the municipal finance impact of development. What I'm getting at is we could have certain departments would put this together and talk about when development happens, get down into the weeds a little bit as to, okay, you build new houses, but then, as you're saying, the services. That could be a topic. The other one I was thinking too would be town meeting and taxation. And what I mean by that is, so everything on April 28th that town meeting authorizes for appropriation, we have to raise that money largely through the tax levy, but that isn't set until November. So it's sort of a counterintuitive process. Like everything that happens on April 28th is actually going to impact the tax classification, which is usually in November or December. So we could sort of break that apart and look at, the raise and appropriate articles, how that impacts the budget moving forward. Because we often hear, we want to lower taxes and so forth. And one of the ways is less that is spent at town meeting has a less impact potentially on the tax rate. So maybe town meeting and taxation. Because I think, I mean, the big thing on the horizon, the two things I think are whatever comes forward to the fall town meeting that has financial in nature, you'll want to review. There's potentially this senior center project for the fall, so there's those two. But in addition to that, from now until then, I think it's a great opportunity. We could put together some of these topics and talk about them. And I think that would be beneficial, I think, not only for all of us, but for the public. That's all I wanted to say.
So what I'm thinking is, so for next meeting, May 15th, the agenda, the first item on the agenda will be a presentation, part one on debt service and borrowing. And I think the second item on our agenda is, I've made some quick notes here of items. I think we could do, what I'm thinking is we could say, okay, and we could maybe as a group just sort of, here's various things that we want to discuss the next few months. So in other words, your idea on municipal. So I think on the second part of the meeting on May 15th would be getting that list formalized and getting a game plan for the rest of the summer and into the fall of each of these items that we want to talk about. The developments impact, new school, senior center, capital planning process, and I forgot CPC. So for our next meeting will be, okay, here's all the things we want to talk about and maybe start scheduling them and things. How does that sound to everyone?
Perfect.
Okay. Wow. We're going to be busy. So we may have to continue with the first and third.
Well, I don't know how many of us are gonna be around. Well, no, just like in the summer, people,
Yeah.
we may not have a quorum all the time.
Yeah, right. But no, I think it goes back to, and Andrew, what you were saying is, I think doing a presentation at next town meeting is just becoming we can become a vehicle to help the town understand and learn about stuff.
You just volunteered for that, Jen?
No, I don't volunteer for anything.
We're putting you in charge of the PowerPoints.
We managed a quorum of just 3 of us on the committee for like a whole year.
Okay, I think we are all set. I don't think we have any public comments to be made, heard.
No?
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned as of 7:08.